So I was raised Catholic in St. Louis, and the only thing I knew about Quakers growing up was the oatmeal. In Minneapolis, I had a coworker, Lynn Sutherin, and she approached me one time and said, "Chester, you should come to meetings sometime." And I said, "Why?" And she says, "Well, you act like a Quaker." I was like, "Well, you mean I act like a Quaker? I don't know. I don't know what that means." So, well, come to meeting and find out. And I think certain messages that Quakers had tended to resonate with me, like there is that of God in everyone. I thought, oh, I like that. That is really, really good. And then they had these basic tenets that appealed to me, such as equality and peace, social justice, simplicity. So those kind of testimonies resonated with me. And I found myself becoming, gradually more and more feeling like this is the community that I should be a part of.
The Quakers have been very present to me in that they are very accepting of everyone, whether you're part of their quote-unquote congregation or you simply are an intermittent attendee or somebody who's experimenting or has come to the meeting house for the fact that they're searching for a sense of spirituality. So I love the fact that there really is no doctrine, as I've experienced it in other religions, that limit you to a series of beliefs.
I feel like there is space for everyone, not only for belief but for unbelief, for doubts and for questions and questing. And I think that was the part that I felt safe with, that I could come however I was, from the Christian tradition or not.
I was used to going to a service, a program where it was kind of packaged for me. There was definitely more of at Minneapolis Friends Meeting, a participation much more. Everybody has the opportunity to share their voice, their experience.
I had participated in some of the American Indian rituals, ceremonies and things, sweats and whatnot. And that was helpful too. By the time I got here and visited the meeting, I just sort of, even the first time, I just sort of felt, boy, I've got to come back and see what this is about. And I felt much more alive about there than I had ever been at any other formal church, And there wasn't this great pressure to come back again, or can we send somebody out to the house to visit you? It wasn't that. It had to do with searching. Had to do with seeking faith. It had to do. That was it. It had to do with trying to come to grips with what your in developing your faith. What was your religious belief? And so it left a lot of room. It gave you a wide berth to try and discover what a development of faith would be.
We were very much taken with the fact that the Friends did not have sort of pledges of reciting beliefs. What they did was basically all a matter of doing good works without proselytizing, without pushing people to believe as they did.
I am one of those Christians who believe that Jesus taught nonviolence. It's a radical idea to some people, but I've always believed in that. And so that's what drew me to the Religious Society of Friends. We're all a combination of things, and I was drawn here by the peace testimony due to my Christian faith.
We had both, in our senior year in college, joined the Fellowship of Reconciliation, which is the interdenominational pacifist society. we wanted to belong to a church that was against war, even when there was a war on. And when we found the Friends Meeting just off campus in the University of Chicago, and went to our first meeting for worship, we felt so completely at home.
I grew up in a family that was purposefully racist. My father had a very racist point of view because he believed in the racial purity of the Germanic peoples. And so I grew up with all this bitter venom against people who were not blonde and blue-eyed and so on. And so coming to Quakers was like a healing, an ability to kind of rethink the whole stuff and to feel some sense of wholeness with the human community.
Raising a child who's participating in both meeting and in the youth programming is very rewarding. It's a wonderful sense of community at all levels. One of the things I appreciate a lot about Minneapolis Friends Meeting is that there is a wide range in age, from newborns all the way up the chain.
I remember meeting some women down in the nursery area, and just having some really meaningful conversations about parenting, about mothering, but about so much more too. It was a philosophy, but also just an acceptance of, come as you are here. And, bring your baby up to worship. I remember one mom saying that it's okay if they cry or if they jibber jabber, people actually like that, and you didn't have to be perfect. So for me, it felt like there were some connections with people my age, but also in a similar life space.
It reveals itself to you at different levels at different times. And if you have that patience and ability to say, yeah, I can be patient with this, I can wait and listen and embrace, then I think you'll be pleasantly surprised and, find yourself like I am, still a member after all these years.
I'm willing to go anywhere to a Quaker meeting.